Hello, writers. Come write with me. My name is Michaela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Michaela. I'm very glad to have you join me on my channel, so don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell. Which one do we want to hit? So that you can go on this journey with me. Today, we are going to explore the world of a well-known author who wrote under the pen name of George Orwell. He has written several books, including A Clergyman's Daughter and Animal Farm. And in today's episode, we're going to discuss part 2, chapter 1, or I, in a book club format. I expect that you have read part 2, chapter 1, before watching the video. The version I am reading, or I read, is published by Signet Classics. Copyright was 1949, and the copyright was renewed in 1977. So, in this chapter, Winston is back at work. He is heading to the lavatory, and he sees the dark-haired girl. It's been 4 days since she saw him outside the junk shop. And he notices her arm is in a sling. But he also knows, since she works in the fiction department and uses the equipment there, it could be a common accident. The girl stumbles and falls before she gets to Winston, and he has mixed feelings. But he helps her up, and she says she's fine. The girl slips him a piece of paper, even though they are in front of a telescreen. Winston goes to the lavatory, but he slips the paper in a pocket and doesn't chance reading it. Once he's back in his cubicle, he tosses the paper among the scraps of paper that hold the jobs he is supposed to do. And then Winston thinks about what the message means and comes up with 2 options. The first is that she really does work for the thought police, and the message is that they are coming for him. The second is that the underground really does exist, which is hopeful, but also means death. Winston finishes with the current jobs, and he pulls his next batch out of the pneumatic tube. So he pulls out the messages. And he puts the message on top. The message reads, "I love you." Okay, now I'm asking myself how he came to his 2 conclusions. Is it that he thinks if she turns him in, that she will be promoted? So she says she loves him? Or does he think that she thinks he can help the underground? Why doesn't he think that maybe the girl actually likes him? I don't know. I have no clue. Okay, so Winston, of course, puts the scrap of paper in the memory hole after he looks at it once again. He is having trouble focusing on his job and keeping his face impassioned for the telescreen. Like, you can't show any emotion. Winston hopes lunch is quiet, but Parsons joins his table. Parsons reeks of sweat and talks almost constantly about the preparations for Hate Week. He brags on his daughter, who is helping make a papier-mâché of Big Brother. Okay, I thought they had the 2-minute hate every day. Now they have a Hate Week? Oh my goodness. This is too much. Okay. Winston is annoyed that he can't hear Parsons properly because there's so much noise with the telescreen and all this stuff. He can't hear Parsons properly, and he has to ask Parsons to repeat things. He doesn't really care what he says, but it's kind of impolite not to know what he says, and he's helping prepare things. So now people will know that he's supposed to know. So he's having to ask him to repeat. So he's annoyed that he can't hear him properly. Now, then Winston sees the dark-haired girl with two other girls. But he doesn't look at her. He sees her come in. He's like, looking the other way. He's not going to look at her again. Finally, the afternoon was more bearable because Winston received a job that would take a couple of hours, and he would have to rewrite production of several things because he needed to discredit a member of the inner party that had a cloud over his head. So for 2 hours, Winston concentrated on the task and did not think of the girl or the new development. After work, he wanted to be alone, but it was his day to go to the community center and participate in a group discussion, some table tennis, and some other things. Finally, at 2300 hours, so for those of you that don't do military time, that's 11 p.m., 2300 hours, he was in his flat and in his bed and in the dark. So long as he didn't make noise, he could think continuously. And he realized with the words, "I love you," he suddenly wanted to live. And he didn't want to do anything too risky because now that seemed stupid. The next several days, Winston tried to figure out a way to get a message to the girl. But he had no reason to go to the fiction department, and everything else was too risky. But he imagines her naked body, and I think that maybe that might be the girl in his dream who slung off her clothes. So that's how he's imagining her naked body, is because that's the one that threw off the clothes. I think. I'd have to go back and read, but that's what I think. Winston saw her in the canteen. Once he saw her alone and not too near a telescreen, so he headed to her. When someone else called his name, Winston imagines an axe going through Wilshire's face. Because he was like so annoyed. He was like imagining, they have this hate going on, this 2-minute hate every day, so it's easy to imagine this stuff. And they have these movies where this stuff... Anyway, Winston hoped that the girl noticed him heading to her, but he couldn't ignore the invitation from Wilshire. Winston didn't see her for several days, and then he saw her with 3 girls. Winston finally sees her alone again. He's in line behind a beetle-like man. He sees the man head towards the girl, and he sees an empty table beyond. He hopes the man heads there, but he follows him. The man trips and spills things and looks at Winston like he thinks Winston tripped him. But 5 seconds later, and with a thumping heart, Winston is sitting at the girl's table. Winston doesn't look at her. She doesn't look at him. They just lean over their food and eat. Winston sees someone he knows, Ampleforth, and he knows Ampleforth will sit to his table if he sees Winston. So Winston asks a few questions while continuing to eat. They plan to meet at Victory Square, but only with a crowd of people around them because there are a tremendous number of telescreens there. Winston arrives early, and the girl doesn't arrive on time. Winston frets a bit, and then he sees her, but he can't go to her yet. Then there are people rushing to the square as they hear vehicles. The vehicles have loads of prisoners. Winston usually likes to be at the edge of such crowds, but he pushes towards the girl and even pushes through a couple. Like she's standing behind the couple, and he pushes through them. There are a couple, possibly a husband and wife couple, that are stocky proles. So stocky poor people. And probably they're proles because they probably don't wear uniforms like Winston wears. Now the crowd is loud. So the girl whispers to him where to meet after she confirms that he can get Sunday off. She tells him directions and what time. They know they need to separate soon and not let the telescreen notice them together, but for a short time, they hold hands. Now, Winston memorizes her hand, and he doesn't know the color of her eyes, but he sees the eyes of many of the prisoners. Now, that's the end of part 2, chapter 1. Okay. It seems that Winston's life has really changed, at least thought-wise. He spent time thinking about the party and keeping a journal and all the gray and bleakness and all the party slogans. But now he's thinking about this girl who he doesn't even know her name, and there doesn't seem to be any hesitation on meeting her someplace. So, leave a comment on how you would react to the note, "I love you." Leave a comment on if you would have sat at her table in the canteen. I mean, everybody's sitting everywhere, so would you join her table? Leave a comment on if you think the girl knew trucks with the prisoners were going to be driving by when they were trying to meet. Kind of make more of a crowd in that space. So did she know that? Could she have guessed that? Leave a comment on how Winston reflects that the statue looks south to their enemy, and now it is said where Eurasia is, but it had said East Asia before. So the statue's facing south. So before it said it was facing towards East Asia when that was their enemy, and now it says Eurasia. But of course, there's nothing written about that. It's always Eurasia now. Also, leave a comment on how they actually held hands. And if you think all the commotion was enough for no one to notice it, maybe no one in front of them, but if there was somebody behind them, might have noticed. Now, I hope you enjoyed part 2, chapter 1 of 1984. Make sure you leave your comments. And feel free to disagree with me. This is a discussion. I'm not giving a lecture. I'm not teaching English. I'm not telling you how to think. This is a back and forth discussion. You tell me one thing, I tell you one thing, and we compare perspectives. Okay? So disagree with my thoughts, agree with my thoughts, take my thoughts and go further with them. That's fine too. Remember, reading is good for writers. It helps us to see how other people create their worlds. So read part 2, chapter 2, or chapter II. Join me Friday for elementals. Join me Tuesday for jargon and a story with a setting. Join me Wednesday for part 2, chapter 2, or chapter II of 1984. Leave a comment if you have an idea for a writing prompt or on a term you would have me discuss, or your favorite term so far. There are so many words and so many ideas. Or you can leave a comment on the next book club for us to read. I've said several times that my thoughts are Lord of the Flies by William Golding. And I've showed you that I have that book already. So if we do that one next, and I think we probably will. This is the one that I've got. This is the now you don't have to get the same copy I get. But that's the copy I have. Don't forget to visit my website, bymckella.com, read some character bios, send your writings and chapters to writewithmckella@gmail.com. Leave comments on your favorite characters. If you hit the like and subscribe and the bell, other people will have a higher chance of watching this video, finding this video, and this channel, since your likes will push the video out to a greater audience. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, please share it with them. This is Michaela with Ray with Michaela. Bye for now.